Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. We're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin today. And speaking of fear and greed, this is just for the stock market on CNN. We can see that we are in extreme greed right now. That's 75 or above. And it's been a while since the markets have been in fear, not since the end of last October. So, about 3.5 months there on pie investing. We are in greed, coming down a little bit, though I would still say extreme greed because the S&P ripped through and got to 5,000. I've seen a lot of people talking about how there are big dips before these 1,000 levels. So this time is different in a way. And that has me feeling cautious in the long term, not the short term. I still think that it's possible we could go higher. In the short term, things have been ripping up for a bit. If we take a look at the last year, look at this. We've been going up since the start of November, and we've gone up a lot. In the S&P, we've gone up about 22% inside of 3.5 months. That is a lot. And with Bitcoin, as you can see, we've gone up a bunch as well since the end of October. Let's go around the same time frame. So right here was the end of October. We've gone up 44%. And that's been a lot too. We did get up to this fib level, and if I zoom out a bit more, we did get up to this 382 fib and went down. And I've noted how that's been similar to the last cycle that we had when I measured a fib from the high to the low. I know this isn't perfect, but to make the point, we had that mid-cycle top where we wicked to the 382 and went down for a bit. And I've noted that while we were below the zero point 0.5, between the zero point 0.5 and the 786 was a great time to dollar cost average in before we eventually ripped up. We had a year to accumulate, and this took 6 months. Inversely, this has taken a year to go up to get to this level. And so I've been wondering, are we going to have 6 months here? However, there is a counterpoint to that, and that is that every halving year we have gone up incrementally less. And let me explain that. So if I zoom way out, here's the halving year, and in that halving year from the start of the year to the end, we went up 250%. In this halving year, also the election year, we went up 130%. So already right there, when I first looked at this, I noticed that's about half this amount, half of that amount. So halving year, half the amount of Bitcoin being mined, maybe that has something to do with it during that year. Right after, obviously, we have the peak of those 4-year cycles. And if you're not familiar with the 4-year cycle, what that means, we have the halvings right here, as you can see on the bottom. Shout out blockchaincenter.net. I am not sponsored. You can see this was 4 years from top to top and 3 years and 11 months to this top. And that was technically the top here. However, this was the time to get in earlier because that's when altcoins, Bitcoin ran. Really wasn't too many altcoins that ran up even more here. I know there were some. However, what made this situation different was the fact that we had a lot of money printing going on. If you don't recognize what this dip is here, you'd see that in the S&P as well, and I'll show you what that is. That was the COVID dip, which is right here. That was the COVID crash, March 2020. So let's go back to what I was explaining with the halvings and how much we were going up. So 250%, about half that, 130%. And then this halving year, in this range, we went up from the bottom to the top. In 2020, we went up 65% until we had money printing. $6 trillion, not all at once. I think they started with 3 trillion was printed and all the markets were booming. That's why we've had inflation problems. That's why markets are still struggling to find out where exactly they should be valued at. There was a lot of excess cash thrown into the markets. Housing went up, everything went up, cars, you guys know the deal, groceries. So if we didn't have money printing, my thought is that we would have gone up around 65 to 70% that year. Maybe, maybe not. Who's to say? We can't go back. COVID happened right here. That's what the governments did in response to it. We went up even more than 250% during 2020. If we measure that out, let's go to the yearly so we can make that more accurate. And if we go to 2020, January 2020, we're going to try to get as close as we can here. So January 2020, and as you can see here, this is where we have our 65% around there, 65, 70%. We had the money printing, but by the time we finished the year, we went up higher than ever. We went up, let's see, it was, I'm trying to get this exact for you guys. I'm looking at the date at the bottom. We went up over 300 or around 300%. So that was new. That was different. Again, consolidating in that range before we shot up, we were at 65% on that 0.5 fib line. And so that's why I put 65% there. And so, long story short, even though the story's already long, I apologize. My thought has been, all things being equal, should there be no money printing, I don't expect there to be. However, there probably will be rate cuts in the middle of the year. That's what everyone's guessing. That if we go up about half the amount from last time and half the amount, again, from the time before, 250, 130, 65% until the money printing, then maybe about half that would be our target. 33%. And that's conservative. By the end of the year, with the way Bitcoin's been moving, you would think 33%, that's it. Again, when you make predictions, it will make you look like an idiot more times than not. So I highly doubt this is going to happen, but I do have this up here just because it's a pattern I saw and I want to see how close it is by that time. Maybe we'll go up and then back to it. Maybe we're just going to blast through it and this means absolutely nothing. When you see this buy zone and mega buy zone, again, I'm just going by the fibs back here from the low to the high. And when we were between the 0.5 and the 786, it was great times to buy. And so that's what I put here. And should we get back under the 0.5, I'd be looking at that. So on the weekly, you'll notice we are overbought. And with crypto fear and greed, we are in greed, approaching extreme greed pretty soon. We've been curling up since the sell-off from the ETF approval, and we've had a nice bounce. We're going to take a look at that. So we got into extreme greed when we wicked up to 49K, and it was a sell the news event so far, but then it's been going back up. So Bitcoin, let's maybe go to the last 3 months. So ETF approval, got up here, 49K, went down, we're going back up. Looks like we may be testing that fib again, which is what I have here is the 382 again. I know my fibs aren't perfect. That's not the point. We're just showing this level here and seeing that maybe we're going to have a bounce. And speaking of the weekly charts, because on this channel, I like to try to look for ways to maximize value of investments or when we put in money. I have this indicator, the 1020 MA crossover with Fibonacci signals. This is sort of a front-running indicator. I have a lagging buy-sell indicator we'll look at later. We had a sell signal, and over the last 4 years, usually these sell signals go down 15%. So I was saying that I was looking for Bitcoin to get around this lower fib level here, around 36, 37, depending on where it wicks and closes, and it never did. It came down here and then came back up, and it went down, at least from when we got the sell signal, around 12%. I was expecting more. That didn't happen. That's okay. We can be patient. But then we got this buy signal, and I said I wanted to wait a week or two to see if that would be confirmed. Well, 2 weeks, you can see how we've gone up. Now we've wicked up here, and so I am wondering, is this a little correction we're seeing? We got to this fib level, so are we going from kind of doing this, what do you call it, an Elliott wave pattern, corrective pattern, something like this, Nothing ever, it rarely ever goes in a straight line. So I am wondering if we're doing something like that. However, should the price keep going up, alternatively, we could see just higher lows being made. That's possible too. So I am being patient, waiting for confirmation. My strategy is that when I invest into something, especially a stock, I want it to be something I like and use. And with crypto, we really don't use this stuff. The only places I've seen Bitcoin exchange machines have been in the ghetto and third world countries. That's just been my honest observation. So, is this something that's more than just gambling? We'll see. Long term, it might, some of these coins might have utility. I know that's a trigger word for some people, but I am looking at those two possibilities. We'll see what'll happen when we take a look at the last year. Here's the other part where I start, and I'll say this in maybe all my videos or most of them, that time in the market is more important than timing the market. On the RSI, which is a relative strength index, when we are overbought and we are at a yearly high, I do not chase the markets because that's an easy way to get wrecked and force you to hold on to bags for the long term. I like to buy when we are at yearly lows and when we are oversold or double tapped on the oversold. So here we were oversold and you could have bought some here. Yes, you would have been holding a while and caught a falling knife. Again, there's other indicators we can look at and you take your own risk. But if you believe in something, when we are accumulating, forming a base, you can dollar cost average in dynamically a certain amount. Maybe you're doing 100 a month and then it goes lower. And then you do 200 a month and it's accumulating here and then it goes lower. Instead of feeling upset about that, again, if it's a product you like and it's something you believe in, then you should be excited about this. And whereas most people, they get disheartened by this and they stop buying. And when you stop buying here after it's gone down the second time on the macro, you could have gotten the best deals back here. But instead, market psychology 101, again, we talk about buying when there's fear and when things are oversold. You want to get excited about this instead of this freaking you out. So then you could have, if you would have had the right mindset, you would have been like, hey, I'm going to put in 300 into here, dollar cost average, whatever the amount. And then eventually you reap the rewards as we go up. And that's just for Bitcoin. For me personally, I've missed the boat on Bitcoin investing a long time ago. Just could have bought and held. So I do look at altcoins, and over the last 2 4 year cycles, I've made money on different altcoins. When I bought in here, this one I was first getting into crypto is around halfway through 2017. And when I bought in here, so in my opinion, not financial advice, when we have around this 2 year period in here, 2 to 3 years, and you are buying in, dollar cost averaging in to less risky large cap altcoins. And again, do your own research, please, because there are things like FTT, BitConnect, the list goes on that are complete scams and rug pulls. Do your own research and even diversify a little bit. I would not personally recommend throwing $1,000 at one coin. Now, with that being said, back here, there were 5 coins I dollar cost averaged into, 5 of them. There was one I felt the most strongest about, and had I put all my money into that, I would have made a ton of money. And that was the coin I felt strongest about. And so I would have made a ton of money had I just stuck with the one coin. However, the opposite could have happened too. What could have happened is that could have been a coin that rugged the most, and other ones that I put in less ran up more. So you never truly know. And sure, hindsight, you can have that regret, but just you make your plays, you live in the moment, you live in the present, and you take your profits when we're near the tops. And you might be asking yourself, well, how do we know when it's the top? There is one indicator I do want to show you. It's called where is it here? I'll find it. Pi cycle Bitcoin high low, Will this indicator work forever? Who knows? But when we go back, I want you guys to see this. Look at these pi cycle highs. If you would have sold here, here, those would have been the tops. Now, let's say you sold here and you were waiting for the bottom and we never got a pi cycle low and it went higher. Yeah, you would have missed that. That is entirely possible. So pi cycle high and we had pi cycle low. Great time to dollar cost average. We had the pi cycle high, pi cycle low. Great time to dollar cost average. We had the pi cycle high, we have the pi cycle low. Great time to dollar cost average. When we are getting above all-time highs, that is the time you need to stop dollar cost averaging in my opinion. Might you make a last second play and hit a 3 at the buzzer and win the game? Maybe. However, I like my chances more back here, and that is a way to maximize your value. Not when we are ripping up on the RSI. As we are ripping up above the oversold region and just going way above the 0.5, I'm not investing. Again, time in the market's more important than timing the market. So if you found yourself in late, I'm going to caution you on investing in right now because you might end up chasing the hype and getting wrecked. Does that mean that it isn't possible to find some altcoins and make some great profits? No, maybe you will get lucky and find that. However, I find it to be much less risky to take the long-term approach. Again, as far as it comes to crypto, I consider myself more of a trade investor than an investor because it is more risky because it's not a product we use. And the prices are way more volatile and it peaks and drops in these 4-year cycles. 4 years between the lows, 4 years between the highs, relatively speaking. So just something to keep an eye on here with the Bitcoin pi cycle. Let's take a look at, here was more the lagging indicator, buy sell signal. So what's curious to me, I showed you the 1020 MA indicator, which is more of a front running buy sell signal. This one waits for confirmation, and we have not had a confirmation buy sell signal still. Again, with the other indicator we did. So the way I see it is we're still chopping around. And yes, if it were to get a buy signal and possibly say that we're going to go up, I mean, let's look here, even though it went back down, when we had the buy signal over here, yes, it went up 14, 15%. And sure, it went down right after. But these weekly or even monthly buy signals are a lot stronger if you're taking a longer term approach. Me personally, when I go off these buy sell signals, I look to see what'll go first, and I like to wait off that. So if we got a sell signal after we peaked up here, if we got a sell signal more up here, I wouldn't be buying for a while. However, what you have to consider is accumulation. Sure, we might get a sell signal here, but if we chop around, I mean, look at this. If we chop around from that's mid-April to mid-October, half a year, I would say even like 3 months plus, you do have to consider the alternative that maybe these sells and buy signals coming back and forth are just showing us accumulation instead of a drop, and that we will go higher. So that's my general look at Bitcoin right now. Something else with the rainbow chart is, at least on this rainbow chart, I want you to take a look at what zone the price is in at each halving cycle. So back here, we were at the fire sale zone. Here, we moved up a zone in the second halving to the buy zone. Third halving, we moved up to the accumulate zone. So I've been wondering, in the fourth halving, are we going to be in the still cheap zone? And that the fourth halving is supposed to be around the 22nd of April. That would put us at that fourth box up from the bottom, that green one, from 52.5 to 68.6. Are we going to get there? Well, we are right there. 52.5. Let's just use a round number. 53 to 68. Where would that put us? 53 to 68. Let's zoom out a bit. So 53 to 68. That would be right about, I'm trying to get this accurate. Oh, crap. Double tapped it. So 53 to 68. So that's interesting. That would put us at in between the top fibs, the 236, a little bit under it to almost the previous all-time highs. So will that happen? Maybe. Maybe we're going to go up here, chop down, and maybe we're just going to keep creating higher lows. Okay, we have to adjust to the conditions the market gives us. None of us can truly predict what's going to happen. Sure, we can find patterns, but guys, I've already shown you there's patterns that I found that contradict each other. There's a halving year pattern that goes up, and then there's the former fib pattern that goes down. And so that's why I like to take an approach of having more time in the market, not trying to time the market, and acting on your plan when the conditions of the market meet your plan. So for me personally, when we are oversold, when there is more fear in the market than greed, and when we are within 20% of a yearly low, those are times to act on it. And I know those times are rare. Again, we haven't been in those times for a while, and it might take a while for those times to happen again. At least when we look on the fear and greed, let's even consider 40, anything under 40. And again, greed and fear aren't a one-to-one correlation to the price, so that it can be a lagging indicator. We haven't been here since the start of September. So that's been about five-ish, six-ish months. Maybe it's 5, 6 months up and then 5 months down. And if so, you're not going to want to miss that time. As you can see, we can come up and down very sharply, or look at this, March 2020, that's COVID, to the next time we're down there. June 21, I believe that was between the peaks. Yeah, November 21, I believe was the peak of the last bull run, to down here. So sometimes you end up waiting a couple of years. Overall, my point is that when you chase, you increase your likelihood of getting wrecked and losing out big time. And so it's not the safest approach. But again, make your own risks, do your own research. The S&P is at all-time highs. Bitcoin is shooting up. It is overbought. And, well, you can see right here, if you look at this, the RSI, so far, we don't know where this RSI is going to finish. We are lower on the RSI, but higher on the price. So right now, that's bearish divergence. But one thing you can say is if you were to draw a trend line, we've broken above it. I don't need to draw that for you. You guys can see that right here. So we have broken above this trend going down. And so maybe this RSI is just going to go higher, and it's just going to say higher RSI, higher price, higher lows, all things bullish. That might be possible too. If we take a quick look at total 3, this is market cap without Bitcoin and Ethereum. You can see we're going up. And I've just drawn this trend line before because we kept hitting this area. I have wondered if we're going to come back down here. And if you look, it's still kind of curling down. So we'll see. Again, let's take a look from when we were at this trend line, the start of 2023, 6 months later in June, 2 months later, October of 23. So almost November. So that might mean that in March or April, which would be around the halving, that maybe we'll come back down here. Who knows? Maybe this is the time where we start curling up. Last thing I'll talk about, something important that I am considering as I dollar cost average in during these lows, and I'm slowing down heavily on the dollar cost averaging. There's some altcoins that are still waiting. Do your own research. I don't want to steer you guys into what ones to buy or not buy. There is value out there, and there are some strong altcoins that even though they're at yearly highs or near that I believe should Bitcoin run, that they'll be good plays. Bitcoin dominance, we've been going down, and something I've noted is that when we were creating this trend line up and broke down through it, that was the mid-cycle top, and we had some time left, the dollar cost average in. When we bounced off this area of support, and I know that's not perfect, I'm just trying to find where there was the most amount of traffic back here. When we had that bounce, that to me was the last time to buy. And Bitcoin was breaking up to all-time highs. And if you can check the dates at the bottom, look at Bitcoin dominance yourself. But here was the last time to buy. So we broke under the trend like we have back here. We had a mid-cycle top so far with the ETF approval like we did back here. Again, we might break through it. Maybe this time's different. So I am wondering if we're going to see a bounce, go up and then down like last time. Maybe. Inversely, what if we go up and then down? Every cycle is different in some ways. So just more data points to consider. And again, make a plan. Maybe do your own research and write down what are 4 or 5 altcoins that you feel strongly about. And if you have any questions about those altcoins, feel free to comment below. I will give you my opinion, technical analysis, and there are thousands of altcoins out there, so I'm going to leave it to you to do your own research on it. I'll take a technical look and give my opinion on it, and we can look at the chart together, and if it's something I've heard of or feel strongly about, I'll be honest with you. But again, don't buy more all because I like it, because I have not batted 1,000 on buying altcoins. I have made money, good money, these last 2 bull runs, but that doesn't mean that something I like is going to go up. So that's the condition of Bitcoin right now. Again, could we rip higher? In the short term, I could see it. However, in the long term, I'm feeling very cautious because the degree to which we've been ripping up, the fact of how low of breadth there is in the markets, because there's a ton of money in the largest tech stocks, things like Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple, Amazon, things like that. We've already had some of the Mag 7 start to show a lot of weakness, Tesla included. China stocks are being obliterated right now because they're having their own real estate crisis going on, kind of like the US did in 2008. And we also have the yield curve inversion. And when it uninverts above zero, typically a recession follows. That's the bonds, the 10-year minus the 2-year. That indicator has been pretty solid. And outside of that, just something else to note. This is the VIX. That's the volatility of the markets divided by the volatility of the volatility. So people look at the volatility of the VIX. That's the VVIX. And the VIX is just the volatility of the markets. When we are down here, it is not a time to buy most things. But when we go up, and again, it might be rare times, but when we go up, these are times to buy or to look for more value. So that's at least for stocks. And I know you're probably thinking to yourself, what the heck? I thought we were talking about crypto. Guys, it's all related. When stocks do well, overall, crypto will do well overall. And so there is an impact on that. When we had the COVID crash, crypto also crashed. So some of those things can have a big impact. So it is something important to consider. Anyways, I'm going to leave that here. None of this financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. However, I do have a lot of knowledge and experience in the field of psychology as a consultant, educator, doing all the things. And I've used that perspective in investing, and that has helped me make money. And I just want to share some of that knowledge, grow this community. I am open and welcome to talk about any opinions you guys have on where the markets are going. If you have thoughts that you want to add to the conversation. And again, my goal is to grow a community so we can help each other make investing be something less stressful and easier to do, something that we don't have to spend a lot of time worrying about, where we can do our own research and at least technically take a brief look at the markets and see, hey, is this a good time to buy or a good time to wait? Of course, see a financial advisor first. I, I'd say put your money into safer plays, but if you have extra and you're looking at how to invest and make it easier on yourself, that is the goal, my goal and aim for this channel. So, hope you guys enjoy and have a wonderful Friday. Take care and have a great weekend. Bye bye.